Looking for an epic charter fishing experience that goes beyond the boat? Want to add in world-class food, festivals, or even football? Come explore everything Louisiana has to offer with a charter fishing trip led by one of Louisiana's top captains. From inshore redfish and speckled trout to offshore tuna and red snapper, from saltwater swordfish to freshwater sac-a-lait. With fishing destinations less than 45 minutes from the airport, Louisiana has something spectacular to offer every fisherman. Go catching with Louisiana's best captains today by planning your next adventure at louisianacharterfishing.com. That's louisianacharterfishing.com.
Want to plan your next fishing trip without the hassle? FishingBooker.com is the best way to find and book a fishing charter anywhere in the world. Whether you're chasing trophy fish or just looking for a family day on the water, Fishing Booker makes it simple, fast, and secure. With thousands of experienced guides, verified reviews, and 24/7 customer support, Fishing Booker takes the guesswork out of planning. Visit FishingBooker.com and book your trip today. Fishing Booker. Fishing trips made easy.
Welcome to DSC's Campfires with Larry Weissoon, a unique blend of hunting, fishing, wildlife conservation, and the outdoor lifestyle. DSC's Campfires is brought to you by DSC, Conservation, Education, and Advocacy. Hornady, accurate, deadly, dependable. Taurus, award-winning revolvers and pistols. Stealth Vision, high-tech, precision-driven equipment for today's modern hunter. Vineyard Max, deer attractants created for the aroma of success, game feeders, and other hunting products. Red 55 Winery, signature wines from Emmy Award-winning country artist Miranda Lambert, owned by Rick and Beverly Lambert. And the Choctaw Hunting Lodge, home of some of the finest hunting in North America. Now, here's Larry.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, to the Campfire. This is going to be somewhat of a little bit different one, and this is a bonus episode, if you will. The primary reason for doing it right now is because Mr. Sam Old is on the phone with me, and Sam's been doing some really great research, as far as I'm concerned, on deer movement, and want to get this in while the hunting seasons are going on, and maybe some of the things that Mr. Sam's going to tell you about will help you put that deer on the wall and put a whole lot of venison in the freezer. Good morning, Sam. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing good, Larry, and how about you?
Absolutely great. It's hunting season. There's cool weather on the way. Coming from your way, I think, coming to Texas. And so, man, I'm excited. I don't know if it's going to make a whole lot of difference as far as deer moving is to some extent concerned down here, but it's sure going to make it a whole lot easier for me to move around. Tell me about some of the things. You do such a fantastic job up there in your part of the world about not only observing but recording what you see. And you've come up with some interesting things regarding deer movement, and I'd really like for you to tell folks about what you're seeing in your part of the world right now and kind of maybe even what you attribute it to.
Well, that sounds good. You know, I've tried to put it together, Larry, and the last time we talked was, about a month ago? And
yes, sir.
I had said something about, possibly the fact the acorns were falling, and there's so many of them that the old bucks would be laying up, and just sort of running around in the woods. But things have really changed, and I'm going to say basically hourly since we last talked. And yes, sir. And but what's happened? I've tried to put it together. When I was out checking my camera cards last week, I noticed the acorns were just popping underneath my feet.
Right.
And usually, if they're still good, they won't do that. You just sort of mash one, and
right.
It pops open. But I started looking at them, and of course, with an abundance of acorns, there's also an abundance of acorn weevils.
Yes, sir.
And I got to looking at them, and almost 90% of them had the little holes coming out. Where the weevil larvae come out of.
Right.
And when that happens, they're pretty much eaten up by the worm itself, and or rotten. And some the deer will eat them a little bit still, but for the most part, they go on to something else. So, but anyway, what I have seen here recently, just as soon as we talked last time, that's when I started seeing bucks chase. As a matter of fact, when I got off the phone with you last time, I looked down here in the field below me, and there was a little 4-pointer. I mean, buddy, he had a doe. It looked like her heels were on fire.
Oh my goodness!
But yeah, and ever since then, I've seen bucks running, chasing each other, and chasing here. Let me tell you this little story that just happened yesterday. We're putting this Craig's Creek Shady Rest together, and I had the fellow up here, my neighbor, with his drone to do a flyover down the creek.
Right.
And as I'm looking out my window, his land is probably it's probably a quarter of a mile away from me, but I can see it. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Well, he was going down the creek, and he had just been hunting yesterday morning. And he saw a buck down there with a doe pinned down. So of course, once you fly that drone, you can't hunt for 24 hours here in Virginia.
Right.
So, but he said, well, I'm done hunting today. He said, let me see if we can see him. So he did. He flew that thing over where he saw that buck, and there was actually 2 bucks. There was a smaller buck and a nice buck that had that doe pinned down. And it was really funny, though, because, what he said when he flew his drone after he hunted down there, before he came to my house, there were bucks on the outer fringes of his field everywhere. And
I'll be darned.
So, yeah. So, but then the other day, I think, I sent you a little picture of the old buck I called Twisty Two. He was out in my field at 3:30 in the evening. I mean, just broad daylight, just grazing along, him and another buck. I couldn't see the other buck that was with him. Of course, you and I, we can look at a deer and tell whether it's a buck or not just by the way it walks. At least I can. And,
absolutely, yes, sir.
But it was a big bodied deer. Let me just put it that way. But they were out in midday, pretty much grazing in the field. And I thought, well, that tells another story. That tells me that either they're not liking the acorns now, or they've had enough of them, and they're out here trying to get them some greens. And things have just changed hourly here and almost opposite of what I thought was going to happen. And so, that's just like you said before. You try to predict what's going to happen, and things will happen almost opposite of what you think is going to be going on.
I've often said that dogs and whitetail deer make liars out of you every time. Now, we're recording this on November the 7th, so what we're talking about has really just occurred in the last few days. Now, interestingly, you mentioned seeing those bucks at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And interestingly, also, we've had the first moon of November, full moon, which is generally referred to as a hunter's moon. Now, I recently saw research. I want your opinion on some of this. There's been a bunch of research done recently by radio collaring deer, and basically that research is showing, according to that particular property, and I mention that because I think that's important to say, that deer do not move necessarily during the middle part of the day when the moon is full, which to me, the best time always to have taken a really good deer, particularly as you're approaching the rut, during the rut, and even sometime when the rut's not even going on, is if you've got a full moon at night, is to hunt during that midday period from about 10 o'clock in the morning till about 3:30 or so in the afternoon. Based upon what you just told me, you saw a fair amount of movement during the middle part of the day recently when we've had a full moon.
Yes, sir. And the other thing is this too. There's a guy up here above me, about 10 miles above me up here. He had a picture of a buck that he took that same day at 11:30 that morning, standing right out in the middle of a field. So, yes, sir. I think that's probably true about the full moon. What else could it be other than the fact that they're just, there could have been a hot doe out there. I didn't see any other deer with them, but at the same time, she could have been laying in the outer fringe of the field. My dad always told me years ago, and I never listened to him. Now I know what he's talking about. He said, son, he said, you're going back deep in the woods, you know, and he said, I always hunt the fringe. Now, you know what I'm talking about.
I do, yes, sir.
We're talking about creek banks, swamps, thickets, and where that buck, those two bucks had that doe pinned down yesterday morning. I mean, it's thick as hair on a dog's back. And if he, you know, if he hadn't had that drone up above him, you'd have never seen him. You know, so
exactly. The drones have been interesting. I mean, in so many different ways. Of course, you know, there's the federal Airborne Hunting Act, which says you cannot use any kind of air support, if you will, in hunting kind of thing. And I think people sometimes forget that, but that doesn't mean it doesn't mean whether it's manned. If it's manned by a person or whether it's such as a drone. So they cannot be used in terms of hunting, but you know, we're using them somewhat in terms before the hunting season starts and even after the hunting season starts, after the hunting season is over with, to do game surveys. Now, particularly since they've got the thermal type drones that really can give you a pretty good idea as to what is there. Kind of based on the same theory that we did for years, doing helicopter surveys where we're flying adjacent transects. And so the drone can be a great tool and a great learning thing, and as long as you don't use it for hunting purposes, kind of.
Well, I think as long as it's used as research, and just like I said a while ago, you know, you can hunt within 24 hours of using one. Now, the other thing that Jeff told me, this was Jeff Mundy. He got just a little bit of a video of a bear down there yesterday morning, but he got so excited that he was trying to hit the buttons and watch the bear too, you know, and like me on my camera, hitting the wrong buttons at the right time. But anyway, he's got a little patch of well, it's actually a big patch of autumn olives down, and there again, it's thick. You can't walk through it. And so, but he happened to fly across the thing, and of course, you know, he's got the thermal, and he saw that signature hit, and he panned in on it, and it was an old bear down in there in those autumn olives, and he was taking those autumn olive branches and raking them through his mouth like a turkey would on a wheat stalk. And of course, this time of year, those autumn olives, I mean, buddy, you can eat them they're just like sugar right now.
Oh yeah,
but
absolutely, and they fabulous jelly, I might add, that you've sent, and I've got some planted. My problem is every time it looks like I'm going to have something, I've got deer that are nipping it off, and I keep increasing the size of the exposure, if you will. But I'm probably going to have to go back and build a much bigger enclosure because it seems like everything likes those things, including me.
Yeah. But to get back to the deer and how they've changed just in the last 2 weeks, I mean, you can watch them here again, yesterday morning, I was looking down here in the field below my house, and there was two little bucks running each other. And then this morning, I looked up on the hill above my house, and you folks, if you ever make it up here, you'll see the terrain I'm talking about. There was an 8-pointer up there looking down at my house. I couldn't get my camera out in time, but anyhow, you know, here I sit in the house trying to do things in here and get things ready. And of course, our rifle season comes in the 15th, and you know, I used to bow hunt, and I have powder hunted a lot more than I have this year. Of course, we're trying to get this venue ready down here, and
yes, sir.
But you know, at the same time, Larry, my main season is a rifle season. That's what I love, and you know, that's just what I like to do. So, and we're going to get a month of that this year. I'm tickled about that. And
good.
But at the same time, what I'm saying, you know, and let's real quick hit on the peak of the rut. Now, you know yourself, and I do too. You know, the peak of the rut is of course it's a good. There's always a time to hunt. There's never, any time you're sitting in the house, you're missing a good time to hunt. Okay,
you are.
But the peak of the rut is basically when I guess what they're saying is the when most of the does have been bred or they're pinned down and the bucks are, you know, really when daylight is just perfect. But my most of my success has been after the peak rut, and those bucks running those does. There's not as many does available,
Right,
but
right,
they're
right.
running. And you know yourself, you've hit on it yourself, that the young does are coming into estrus then, and buddy, that's your good time to be out there hunting.
You're exactly right. I remember years ago through spending a lot of time down in the bush country, South Texas, and the research that's been conducted down there over about a 50-year. It has been one of those things where December 18th is the peak of the rut. That's when more does are being bred than any other time now, because the nutrition levels are such that are available throughout the year. The rut's been spread out a lot more. But at the same time, that's been the peak date forever and ever and ever. Do you see the same thing? I know, of course, sometimes it gets a little cooler or it gets a little warmer. That really doesn't make any difference as to whether or not those bucks are chasing. It just makes a difference as to whether they're chasing during daylight or chasing after dark when it gets really warm, kind of thing. Are you seeing the same thing up there in your part of the world?
Yes, sir. Usually, like I say, this year the peak rut that got on the calendar is 14th. Usually it's 14th to 15th. And here again, last year I told you when I got that 10-pointer, we had a cold front come through, snow came with it, and
yes,
they were on their feet with that. Now we had an ultimate heat period before that here, hot, and the weather has a little bit to do with it up here, but I'm like you. I think ultimately it's just the nutrition and the time, the time of the daylight time that they have, and when it really kicks in. It's usually the 14th or the 15th every year.
Yes, sir. And I think part of that, what we're talking about, and I want to come back to this 6-month-old does a little bit as well too. But part of the deal is people. I'll tell people. I said, okay, it's fall, and you're wearing every bit of clothes that you can because it's going to be cold. How active are you going to be out chasing around and running, kind of thing? And that's kind of the same way that these white-tailed deer are. I mean, they're not going to be as movement active as they normally are. They're still going to be breeding. Breeding goes on regardless during that time. But it's just they got all this heavy coat on, and they're going to run for a little bit, but then they're going to get tired and hot, and they're going to slow down. And that's kind of what happens a lot of times that I've seen in the areas that I've been. Now, getting back to those 6-month-old does, on properties that I've managed in the past, 6-month-old doe fawns, and I'm talking about fawns that now were born, we were in November, were born in May or thereabouts. If they're on a good nutritional level, I've seen as high as 80% of those 6-month-old doe fawns have their first estrus period. Now, generally that occurs usually about, anywhere from a few weeks to even a month or more after the peak of the normal rut. And a lot of times in South Texas and some of the other places I've hunted, that's when you see some of those really old big bucks show up that probably been there the entire time. They just have not been very active, or they've been very secretive in what activity they've done. So that's an absolutely fantastic time to hunt.
You better believe it. And some of the bigger bucks I've seen, and a couple of them that I have gotten, was during the late period like that.
Right.
It's like I said, the other thing is this too. Those older bucks, they like say they've got that heavy coat on, and the older bucks are sort of like me. So they can't move, regardless of how cold it is, they can't move but so much, But
exactly.
Just the other day, I saw on one of my trail cameras a young doe. It was a very young doe, but she had been running. And she was right in front of that camera, just panting her. Just like a dog, So I knew what had been going on already. Now this one particular little doe, I've been watching her. I dare say that she was probably born sometime in late April, because yes, sir. She's a big fawn. Let's put it that way. And I've been watching her. I thought, she's big to not have been born real early.
Exactly, and that would put her at about 6 months of age, and that is usually when white-tailed does have their first estrus. So
exactly
perfect.
Right.
It goes back perfectly right. I'm going to have to get going here just a little bit on. I've got a hunt coming up, but I want with where you are, and like I said, this is going to be a bonus episode, so it's going to air pretty darn quick, about the same time that really that we're talking here. I'm going to try to get Dustin to get it up fairly quickly. Your season opens up on the 15th. Traditionally, the Texas whitetail season opened up on the 16th of November, and then they finally changed it to allow people more hunting opportunities. As somebody's approaching, they're in Virginia, they're in your part of the world, as they're getting ready to go hunt for this fall hunting season, what's the best advice you would give those folks?
Well, the only thing I can tell them is don't sit in the kitchen. Get yourself out there. And the one thing I will hit on, about this time of year, we've had some winds too, and a lot of people they'll say, oh, it's too windy to go out and hunt. Let me just tell you this: that is the best time in the world. If it's where you can't stand it, don't go. It's dangerous to be out there. Then at the same time, if you have generally 10 or 20 mile an hour wind, the best thing you can do is get on the downside, if you own private property, on the downside of that wind to where they're going to be coming in off of other property, and you will see bucks that you've never seen before.
You're exactly right. I've seen the same thing many times, and I love your advice. I've often been asked what's the best hunting advice you can give somebody, and it's go hunt. Don't look for excuses not to go. It's too hot. It's too cold. It's too windy. There's not enough wind. It's raining. It's snowing. There's 1,000, I guess, or more excuses not to go hunting. But if you don't go hunting, you're not going to put venison in the freezer.
Exactly. A day missed hunting is a day that you'll never get back.
Amen. And the day hunting is as good as it comes as far as I'm concerned. Sam, I want to get back with you here before too very long. I'd love to do another bonus episode with you, saying about 3 weeks, if that's all right. By then, we'll have gotten into the hunting season. We'll be in. Maybe I can tell a hunting story. You can tell a hunting story. And we can kind of catch up with each other and find out what's going on. I know you've got cameras out. I know you're a very astute observer of everything that you see up there. And to me, that makes you very important as far as I'm concerned, particularly not just down here, but in terms of knowledge, but also in terms of a lot of folks that in your part of the world that hopefully listen to this and can become better hunters because of what you're doing.
Exactly right. Now, Larry, real quick, I put this little fella on my management site just a while ago, Nate Jennings, with his son that just killed a big 10-pointer day before yesterday. They had to find that deer with a drone. But now Nate was the actually reason. He's actually the one that led me to become friends with you, and we will tell that story on here.
Yes,
one day soon.
We'll do that the very next time we get together. Tell people very quickly your sites and where they can see the video that we kind of alluded to several times, and the photographs and some of the stories that you're doing as well too.
Yes, sir. They can get to me at Craig's Creek Deer and Wildlife Management, and they can friend me on my regular site, which is Samuel Olds, Olds, and they can friend me on that and send me a request to get in on this Craig's Creek Deer and Wildlife Management, and I will, approve it, and they can get in here and watch me. I'm putting stuff on every day now, and thank Lord for you. You're so much a big important part of it, and our friendship is one that's unmatched, I believe. But
I totally agree.
When we shake hands, let me tell you what it is. It's gonna be hard to let go. I can tell you that.
I agree, and we're gonna try to make that happen this year. And
yes,
and like I said, we'll get together again in about 3 weeks and catch up a little bit. I want to thank you so much for all that you're doing, all that you've done, all that you're going to do, and particularly not only being a friend, but also being a part of this podcast. So appreciate you much. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll see everybody back here hopefully next week. Remember, this is a bonus episode. We're going to try to do more of these with Sam in the future. So appreciate you being with us, and wish everybody the very best of hunting successes. Be safe and make some absolutely fantastic memories with your family and with your friends. We'll see y'all next week around the campfire.
DSC's Campfires with Larry Weissoon has also been brought to you by The Crown Bar in LaGrange, Texas, the Texas Wildlife Association, Double Nickel Taxidermy, and Burnham Brothers Game Calls.
From dawn to dusk and every moment in between, Captain Justin Leake and Meredith McCord have an exciting adventure waiting in the water. Catch Chasing the Sun, Sundays at 10 a.m. Eastern on Waypoint TV. Waypoint TV, your destination for outdoor entertainment. Hit the road for fun and heartwarming fishing adventures with the Real American Road Trip.
I just want to hook up one time. I just need to hook up one time.
Catch the Waypoint Original Series every Tuesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern on the Waypoint TV channel. Waypoint TV, your destination for outdoor entertainment.
I did get a bite. I have gotten a bite. I did feel it.